exploring the vast worlds of He-Man and She-Ra. Join Sean Scavarna and Matthew Duke as they discuss the history and mystery of Eternia and Etheria, diving deep into all incarnations of Masters of the Universe.
Hey, you know who's back? It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Now that you know, let's go get ready for the show. It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Sit back and enjoy the ride right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to L.O.G on MYP, the fan miniseries where Curtis Ackerman and Matthew Duch go over each episode of the Mike Young Productions 2002 He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoon series, episode by episode, breaking it down, getting real technical, giving our thoughts and our ratings. Today we are on episode 13, Night of the Shadowbeasts. Curtis, how are we doing? I'll say tonight.
We're doing excellent. As the theme song was playing there, I had a level out, and I was leveling my monitor to make sure it was nice and straight. So,
yeah.
So it came up 000. So it's perfect.
We can all breathe a sigh of relief right now.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's what people were worried about. So
absolutely. I will say that your camera might be a little bit crooked though, because it looks like the DTOF's kind of
it's because it's at an angle, so it's getting part of it. So like if I straightened it out like this, then it wouldn't be.
Okay,
but,
good.
But yeah, because I got a dual monitor setup, it's kind of
Just wanted
the monitor itself is totally straight. So.
Some people are afraid of the dark. Curtis is afraid of unlevelness.
I ended up getting a second monitor recently because our friend Joe Gonzalez shamed me into needing a second monitor.
Yes.
Like I was some sort of, homeless person or something. And once I did, moving my camera around and stuff, it like messed everything up. So we had one episode where I'm like looking this way the whole time that we're doing the episode. It doesn't look like it. I mean, if I'm interviewing somebody or, like I'm talking to you, I want it to look like I'm looking at you.
Sure.
Not. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I still need to get my second monitor. I need to get professional one these days.
We're all waiting for you to get professional.
Absolutely. So jumping into this episode, I got a nice surprise in the mail.
Oh.
Which is going to help us from here on out and will be a great addition to our upcoming feedback episode, which will air next week. So I got from longtime friend, viewer, amazing guy, Yuka Isakanen. I got his unofficial guide to He-Man in 2 series.
Awesome.
So this is one he had put this up for pre-order like a couple years ago, and I thought I had it. But then before we started this series, I went looking for it and realized I didn't. So luckily he still had some copies left, and I was able to secure one from him. He's got lots of interest. He's got his own personal review. He's got synopses. He's got the original air dates and all that. And he also has that one-liner Cartoon Network episode description that I've been telling you about. So we'll start using this on this episode. And then next week in the feedback episode, I'm at least going to go back and pick out some of the good like trivia from the first 12 episodes we covered without it that we can go over. So
awesome. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it should be real good. So Night of the Shadowbeasts. This is episode 13 of the series. It was written by Michael Reeves. It was directed by Gary Hartel. Story edited by Dean Stefan. The final draft was approved on April 11th, 2002. And its original U.S. air date was November 29th of 2002. The Cartoon Network episode description. Skeletor unleashes fierce nocturnal creatures to destroy Castle Grayskull. And obviously this episode has our first appearance of the Shadowbeasts into Mike Young lore.
Absolutely.
So let's start there. What did you think of the updated Shadowbeasts?
I think they look phenomenal, man. Throughout the episode, you know, when you can see them, because there's a lot of times where they're just shadows. But when you can see them, they are menacing, big. I love the hints of blue. Yeah, they look great, man.
Yeah, and again, great update because they're instantly recognizable, even without the episode title and all that. You look at this, and you know, you just show someone a picture, and they're like, "Oh, that's Shadow Beasts," you know. But yeah, they're amped up. They're a little more ferocious. I'm glad in toy form for classics we got like that Filmation Shadow Beast. I'd really like this variety too at some point. Like if they were to do an Origins Shadow Beast, I would like them to do it based off this look. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I definitely prefer this look to the Filmation, and normally I'm a huge Filmation guy, but yeah, I prefer this look.
Right. And the big lore change in this is that they cannot be out during the daytime. Like they are allergic to light in this one. So
is it allergic or just afraid?
It could be either, really. Like it seems like it physically hurts them. It pains them. Whereas in the Filmation, it would take like a really bright blast from like Tila had those bombs. Like that really hurt them, but they could be out in normal daytime.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's so much so that, I mean, we'll get into this, but at one point they were talking about, well, why don't we just attack at night? And then, you know, Triclops is like, well, there's still moonlight. So even just moonlight would be bad for them. So exactly. Yeah, that's pretty sensitive.
Yep. But they also like really cranked up their power levels. So like, they
and numbers.
Yes. It is definitely. So let's get into it. So the episode actually opens in Snake Mountain this time. No training, not the opening scene.
Not in the opening, but we will get some.
We pan into Snake Mountain. We're back in Beastman's Critter Dungeon. Love the design of this place still. This time we get a panning shot with all these different beast creatures, tentacles.
And it doesn't look like they're happy to be there. Like they're you know, they're itching to get out of their cages, and I just love like Beastman swinging around in there. Like it's not like where there's just a ground and a bunch of cages and he can just walk around. Like he literally has to like swing like an ape through the, you know, around it to get around, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it's great seeing Beastman like that, really playing up the ape aspect of him. He's using his feet to you know, swinging on his feet to grab the next chain with his hands to spin around. And
even when he gets to Skeletor to talk to him, he's like hanging upside down.
Yeah, I love that personality for Beastman. And I know we said it before in Dragon's Brood when we first got here, but I love the fact that he, like you said, he's more like this evil carnival sideshow creature, and he's bending these beasts to his will rather than just beep, 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 and they do whatever he wants, you know. I mean, not knocking on Filmation, but like this opens up the door to like some more, like to the character more and what he does.
It makes it feel like it's more skill than Aquaman power, you know?
Exactly. And there's, again, like with the dragons, there's a chance that they can then turn on him. Like there's that easier, there's more that source of conflict there. But yeah, so he introduces Skeletor to his latest acquisition. He shows him to this completely dark cage that no one can see anything in. Triclops uses his Doomseeker to light up, and they see the shadowy outline of a Shadow Beast, who then crushes the Doomseeker,
which oozes some sort of green stuff. I don't know what's inside a Doomseeker, but it's like a bled green goo.
It's like liquid coolant.
Yeah, I
in
guess,
those high-end gaming PCs, you know. But yeah, not only does he crush that, but he busts through the bars of the cage in doing so.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that cage would be able to hold him if it was all dark.
Yeah, if it was all dark, he'd be out of there.
Yeah.
Skeletor is impressed.
One thing I wanted to point out here: we only see one. Yes. In this part, we only see one Shadow Beast.
Yep.
Okay.
And again, I think we'll just get into it. Once they attack, there's a whole horde. But I think like you said, what it is they pretty much hide because of their aversion to light. You rarely see them. Like they're almost kind of.
There's a question about, we talked about like, how does Beastman control these things? And, if it isn't a telepathic Aquaman thing, and it is something that you have to actually control these things, controlling one Shadow Beast is one thing. Controlling like hundreds of them, I'm not sure how that works. We'll talk about it, but it's interesting.
All right, we can table it for now. I got thoughts. Okay. So yeah, as Skeletor muses about how he can use these strong warriors, they do point out that they will not come out in any sort of daylight, even moonlight.
To which then Triclops, because Beastman suggests let's go at night, and Triclops says there's going to be moonlight, and then calls him fur for brains, which I thought was a good line.
So Skeletor basically decides that they just have to block out the sun.
Oh, just easy as that.
Simple enough. Yeah. I want to talk about Skeletor for a second here.
Okay.
Throughout this entire episode, they do this thing with Skeletor. He's got his cloak cape on this episode, but they do this thing with it where it's got this high collar that blocks the bottom of his mouth the entire episode. And I
didn't even notice that.
Oh my God. I couldn't, like, it irritated me throughout the whole episode. Like, I couldn't not see it. It's, yeah.
Interesting. I might have to check that out again. I watched it twice and didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's awkward. I can't even think of who it reminds me of. Somebody that I'm picturing, but I can't place who it is. But there's like a superhero or villain or something that's got that going on, where it's like literally like his collar's up to here, almost Orko-esque even. And it's just like, it irritated me the whole episode. But apparently that was just me. So, so now we get to join up with the Masters, and they are doing what, Curtis?
They're training, but the first training is just a continuation of last week's bad episode where they're just like making Mechanic a joke and having his head go through this like maze thing construct that Man-at-Arms has put together. And it's like really that's what you're gonna have Mechanic do. And I even thought, later in the episode that it could have been cool if they would have given, we talked last week about like how to make Mechanic cool, and using his bite is not the way to make him cool. But they could have made some sort of like light attachment to his helmet or something so that, he could then go wherever and shine light and scare that would have been useful here. But instead, we get him putting his head throughout the weird maze. So,
which then Man-at-Arms makes disappear, and we can see the Hag's. I almost thought
his neck stays in the same shape as the maze after the maze is gone. Yeah,
I almost. I don't know, that scene cracked me up. It was almost like they like got out there training, and Man-at-Arms was like, "Hey, you remember that Marzo dude? Like, how do you think you got the amulet back?" Like, and Mechanic's like, "Oh, here, I can show you." Like,
to me, it was like they took the last episode and they're like, "Hey, remember when we made fun of Mechanic? Well, let's double down on that." That's what I got from it.
Or almost like they needed to justify it. Like, no, this is like. Because we both were like, well, what was the point? Like, any snake could have done that, but they're like, no, look, he trains for this. Like, this is
and a snake would be better because it could get through a tiny hole. Like, he's got to fit his massive head through there. Like, wherever it's going, it's got to be big enough that you could fit his head through, which means it would probably be big enough for just Orko to fly through. So, which we kind of talked about last episode, but whatever.
But yeah, it was just, especially coming off Mechanic's lament. I guess it never hit me as hard that scene before with Mechanic. Like, wait a minute here, guys. What are we doing? We get to the rest of the training. Man-at-Arms orders well, he starts to order Ram Man, and Ram Man jumps the gun, thinking he's going to order him to take out this wall. But in doing so, he accidentally falls into the old abandoned well. Splash.
And this is the first of many falls. There's a lot of falls in this episode. So,
yes.
Yeah.
He falls into this old well. Luckily, he's all right. He's sitting down there in the water, looking freaked out as the masters lower a rope to haul him out. He quickly clambers up the rope. Much better than I ever could in gym class.
I thought for sure they were going to send Mechanek's neck down there to get him. Like he was just going to grab on.
Clamp onto him with his teeth. Like, yeah.
I thought for sure when he was down in the well, I'm like, here comes Mechanek's neck. And then they throw a rope instead. But yeah.
Oh, Man-at-Arms seems to take it in, but doesn't really say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdo Man-at-Arms again.
And then we go to back to the volcanoes.
Yep.
Or at the volcanoes where Skeletor now has this idea to block out the sun. And so the evil warriors are just kind of filling these, volcano openings with boulders and just kind of blocking them to build up some pressure. And then, because maybe we're dumb kids watching, they have to have Triclops kind of dumb it down and be like, oh, well, that's going to build up a bunch of pressure and blah, blah, blah. Like, we kind of know what they're doing. But anyway.
Yeah. So, and Mount Barathrum is the mountain that by plugging up all the smaller volcanoes, everything's going to go and create this super volcano. And it's going to darken the skies around Eternia, which... Yeah, like that's kind of legit. Like I remember when I'm in Indiana and when the wildfires were happening up in Canada, like it messed with our our skies. Like it was definitely hazier. So
I feel as this episode goes on that this plan that Skeletor is coming up with is one of his more well-conceived plans.
Yeah.
Like he's like, okay, Shadow Beast, gotta have it dark. We're gonna have this volcano thing. And then we'll talk kind of what he goes from here. But I feel like as we go through this, I want to make sure that we kind of talk to, this is a very good plan by Skeletor. This isn't just, we're going to go do this thing. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like he's got contingencies. He's got things figured out. So I thought this was a well-constructed episode from the fact of just, Skeletor really having a good plan in place.
No, absolutely. So now with the darkened skies, the next step is the evil warriors take out the power generators at the royal palace, making sure that there is no light that's going to be happening, and then Skeletor starts a two-pronged attack.
Real quick though, the taking out of the power generator, because I watched this twice.
Okay.
And as I'm looking at it, it looks like it's debris from the volcano just happens to hit the power generator and take it out.
No, I thought
I thought it would be really cool if it was Evelyn and some of the things that she was doing, like bringing like stuff down from the sky in the first episode, if it was like that. But I never saw Evelyn doing anything. I don't see them explaining how that those rocks are flying through the air and taking out the power generator. I kind of, the first viewing, just sitting there watching it through, I'm like, oh, this is stuff from, like, before it hits the power generator, I'm like, oh, this is stuff that's flying out of the volcano that just erupted. And it's like, oh, well, it just so happens to hit the power generator and take all the lights out.
No, I definitely think it was intentional. Because we even have Manny Faces, he's like tracking the incoming boulder.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I can't remember now if it actually showed like anybody throw it, but
it didn't. But it does look very similar to the power that Evelyn was using in the first episode. Or, well, I guess it was the third episode right before He-Man shows up.
Right.
So.
Interesting. But yeah, I definitely think it was intentional.
I just think throwing like a little quick, like 2-second showing Evelyn would have made that a little bit more seamless. Yeah. But anyway,
and that's why I was checking the deleted scenes in here to see if that was one of them, but it doesn't look like it. So his plan, everything's dark, generators out. Royal Palace is down. And so Skeletor sends the evil warriors with a horde of shadow beasts to attack the palace, while he takes another horde of shadow beasts to attack Castle Grayskull.
But he goes to the palace first. It's not like they went separate directions and he went
True.
this way.
They
He
split
goes
off.
with them to the palace. Once he knows everything's in place and everything's going the way it's supposed to, power generators down and stuff, he then is like, well, I'd love to stay, but and then kind of books it.
As long as they're taken care of, they're going to be busy doing this.
Right.
I am going to have all the time I need.
Which, once again, great plan, because
absolutely
he knows that these people that follow him are a bunch of boobs, and it would be very easy for them to just mess it up. So he goes to make sure that all of the chips are in the right spot, everything's in play the way it's supposed to be. And once he feels confident, then he takes off for his plan, which I think as this goes along, it's just a really good good job by Skeletor. So
so then this also forces Adam does get alerted, but he transforms into He-Man and follows Skeletor to Grayskull.
One more thing before. Oh no, you're right. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, because he takes off right away, leaving the Masters to deal with their stuff. What I love is so at this point, once the sun's blotted out, now we have this darkened color palette. But what I love is it's not just that like shading that we complained about in previous episodes. It's actually like muted colors still.
There are times throughout this that they have like numerous shadow beasts that are so dark that they're basically just black.
Yeah.
But it's not like they're doing this like grayed out, no color, whatever.
It's not that lazy shading.
Correct.
Where we just don't want to color it. It's a stylistic choice. And I love that even in Adam's, once he gets into the stock transformation sequence, there's still that darkness up until the power of Grayskull lights up. And then it reverts to like the normal bright, the lightning comes down and everything's clear. So lots of fun, nice attention to detail. They could have easily just thrown the stock transformation in there and no one would have complained. But kind of like the horses winning in the other episode, I like that they went that extra mile.
Yeah. One thing that I did think was really cool here, we've talked for 2 episodes now about how they're making Mechanic into the joke.
Yeah.
But after everything goes dark, he raises his head up. He's doing his whole reconnaissance thing, which we wish he kind of would have embraced more in the last episode.
Yep.
And you see that he has night vision. Like you see what Mechanic's seeing, and it's got like that green tint to it.
Yeah.
And so somehow Mechanic has either whether it's some sort of robotic attachment or
Man-at-Arms is. Man-at-Arms gives him the upgrade.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that.
Yep, he sticks which is he says he got an upgrade to help him see better at night, which I kind of didn't like that. I'm like, I think Mechanic should just always have that. Like, come on, Man-at-Arms.
Yeah, I didn't catch that part,
out?
and I thought it was just like something that he has. So I thought that was cooler than now you telling me kind of takes that away. But
right, but again, jerk Man-at-Arms. Like, you're waiting till there's a nighttime issue, be like, oh yeah, I got this upgrade for you.
Right.
Which in the script, it says, according to the unofficial guide, it was supposed to be like an additional pair of goggles or like a goggle attachment. But in the episode, it ends up being this disc that he attaches to Mechanic's neck that like updates the firmware. So,
gotcha. But it's really cool. I mean, you think back, this is, early 2000s, and I don't know how many of us had seen anything with night vision at this point. It's not like this stuff wasn't, prevalent. We didn't have like phones that had night vision and stuff on them. So just seeing everything kind of in a green scale as he's looking around, I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely. And again, it makes reconnaissance is important. Like no one else can see. So the Masters are defending. Tila's barking out orders, and the hordes of Shadow Beasts are just taking over. Obviously, they have the advantage in this scenario. And so now we see all these Shadow, like you said, Beastman had one, but now we've got all of them. I think, and we kind of talked about this in Dragon's Brood, that there are creatures more willing to serve Beastman than others. So I think definitely here, like, shadow beasts are an angry, vicious creature. Probably made even more so by the fact that they have to spend most of their lives, you would think, hiding. You know,
Yeah.
they're almost like werewolves, or like opposite werewolves in this case, where like basically the new moon is like the only time they can really roam freely. You know, so I think all that anger and aggression leads them to, like, they're willing to follow Beastman. They just can't come out normally.
Yeah, I kind of took it as kind of like herding cattle. Like you don't have to interact with every single cow, but if you interact with some, then the rest of them kind of fall in line and follow that path. So kind of like, you know, if he's just kind of directing them in the right direction, but he doesn't have to necessarily interact with every single shadow beast.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're more willing to just do this. So setting the stage, which is making it dark for them, is more important. Once that's done and they can roam freely, you're basically just
once you've brought them to the palace, then it's just like, you know,
now you're just letting them go.
Have fun.
Like, enjoy, guys. And they're stomping, they're thrashing, they're destroying. And
I think the really, and this is the next, in my opinion, the next great part of Skeletor's plan, Beastman actually kind of stays back and sets up a blockade to stop He-Man or the Masters or anybody that would be trying to get past the palace towards where Skeletor's going. And he sets up this blockade to, like, stop him. And, you know, I think He-Man at that point, when he realizes that he's outnumbered, because he even says, you know, like, whatever, it's 2-on-3 or something, then a bunch of them show up.
Then a bunch more,
And it's like, okay, I need to just move past these. I can't fight these guys. But I think that's just a smart part of the plan, that, hey, you know, we're going to have Triclops, Evelyn, Trapjaw, you know, all these shadow beasts are attacking the palace. Beastman, you stay back and make a blockade. I'm going to go towards Castle Grayskull, do my thing. It's just well constructed, but unfortunately for them, He-Man is able to get by them and you know, kind of knocks down some trees and everything and stops the shadow beasts in their tracks, because they can climb a palace, but they can't climb trees.
Right.
But you also see Beastman kind of, it's like they're not obeying for a second, and he turns and kind of cracks his whip, and he's like no, stop, because he needs to maintain the blockade. He doesn't want them just chasing after He-Man.
Exactly.
So
yeah, so where are we? And I believe then we follow He-Man to the castle first. He confronts Skeletor.
No, before that, we see the, like, hundreds of shadow beasts, like the black outlines, climbing the palace. So I just want to make sure that it's now, like, we're talking a lot of shadow beasts. This isn't just a couple. But then, yes, we go towards
and even at Grayskull, we see shadow beasts all over the castle walls. He-Man confronts Skeletor, who's still hiding the bottom half of his jaw. He must not have brushed his teeth this day.
Well, and even before Skeletor and He-Man get to Grayskull, Man-at-Arms pulls out that vehicle. That happens beforehand.
Oh, okay, that does happen beforehand. That's where I was trying to remember the jump back and forth.
Which I can't remember the name of that vehicle.
But that was the Bashing Beetle, and he creams that shadow beast into the ground. We don't see the impact, but
yeah, and it's got bright lights. I mean, it is super high beams on this thing.
So he creams the shadow beast. He confronts Ram Man about being afraid of the dark. Again, this jerk Man-at-Arms who has no sympathy, no empathy. He just walks out. He's like, "You're afraid of the dark." And Ram Man replies, "No, I'm not." And he just stares him down until he admits, "Well, yeah, I got lost in some caves as a kid, and I didn't think I was going to make it out."
But then you see a little bit of a crack in that Man-at-Arms sternness, where he's like, "You're one of the bravest men I know," kind of thing.
Right.
And it's what people do when they're afraid that defines them, and that kind of thing. So, you know, as much as we want to give Man-at-Arms crap for not really caring about people's feelings, he does have a little moment there where he's like, okay, I need to reinforce this guy. I need to kind of build him up a little bit. which was kind of out of character for him, but I thought it was nice.
I don't know. I think it still is because he needs Ram Man as a weapon, so he's got to build him up here.
So
but
you think he's just doing it strategically? It's not really
like I need Ram Man. We're being overrun. Like, dude, you're brave.
I didn't look at it that way, but you might be right. Yeah,
it's kind of the same. But he's also not lying to Ram Man. That's
right.
Like Man Arms isn't gonna lie.
Yeah,
but I guess my point is he doesn't like. Oh my god, that's terrible. What happened as a kid? He's like, dude, that was in the past. Like, who gives a shit? Like, focus. Focus. You're brave. I've seen you do brave stuff. Now get out there and attack.
Yeah, that's true.
And I actually like we kind of talked like Mechanic, his want for a better power has kind of become a thing. We see in his Ram Man's alternate universe counterpart, Ram Mam, in the CGI series, that she's also got a thing. They do it more of the enclosed spaces in that series, but it's kind of the same thing. She was trapped, in a cave when she was young. So that's kind of something that's stuck with him. I wish they kind of dug into it a little bit more. I know they were going for the younger audience, so they just kind of did the afraid of the dark, but it is kind of a bit more than that. It's like, can you imagine being a kid being trapped in caves? Like,
yeah, that would suck.
Right. So he's definitely, and we saw the flashbacks earlier, kind of his little PTSD moment when he fell into the well earlier that was explained here. But yeah, so the fighting continues, and Ram Man and Teela end up being knocked into another old sewer system.
Before they fall, Triclops takes out the Basher, whatever it is.
Bashing Beetle.
Yeah, he takes it out, kind of destroys that. And then Teela and Ram Man fall, which is now the second fall of the episode.
Yep.
And then Whiplash smacks Man-at-Arm in the face with his tail, like hard, like as bad as that Bashing Beetle hit the Shadow Beast earlier. Man-at-Arm takes a Whiplash tail to the face like a champ, man. It is hardcore.
Absolutely, yeah, and there's a lot of that. Like we said, they crush the Shadow Beast. Man-at-Arm gets knocked out. So yeah, it's some fun action in here.
Yep. And then we go to Skeletor at Grayskull in his stupid robot pterodactyl, whatever thing that is.
Pterodactyl, exactly.
It's dumb. It's the dumbest vehicle.
I love it. I love it.
And you know what I thought at this moment? I thought back to the 2 episodes ago where it's like, what about the bridge? Like, the bridge was so important. Like the bridge. We had to protect the bridge because that bridge is like, you can't let him across it. And then they destroyed the bridge, but somehow, he's got flying vehicles. The bridge doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, it's like you can come from any direction to Grayskull.
Yeah. So I know it's not a indictment on this episode, but it just made me think about, I guess the bridge wasn't that important. So
no bridge.
Yeah.
So He-Man and Skeletor have a confrontation. He-Man is able to knock Skeletor down.
Shadow Beasts are just going crazy on Grayskull.
Yep. They're able. Sorceress is able to help scare them away, and we see Zor come out of Grayskull and transform to the Sorceress outside of Grayskull. So.
Yep. Battle Cat gets blasted like, Battle Cat does.
He's not knocked out though.
Yeah.
And the Sorceress tells He-Man that this won't end until he can bring the sunlight back. So he's got to travel to the Dark Hemisphere.
Well, before that, He-Man falls down the cavern.
Yep. That was cool,
third fall. Yeah, third fall of the episode. And does this thing where he has his sword way down in the thing, and he kind of grabs it as there's rockets coming from the pterodactyl thing, and he grabs the sword and swings up, and then the explosion hits and actually helps him ascend back up. Which I just thought that whole interaction was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it was a great animation sequence there.
And before the whole Sorceress does her thing, the Shadow Beast have actually torn a hole through the door of Grayskull. Like there's a hole in the door.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
And then she does something, some sort of power or something to just blast light everywhere.
Yeah, it's interesting that they didn't just use the force field, which has always had a green glow about it. Like, but yeah, she gets some light.
Which kind of seems like
away.
it takes it out of her too. Like it's not, it took a little bit.
I also wonder if that's because then the next time we see her is technically outside the walls. So we know in Filmation she couldn't leave the walls at all in human form. Here she obviously can, but yeah, it almost seems like they're setting up like she's weaker outside of Grayskull instead of powerless.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Again, the kind of the first time in the series this has come up. So and I actually love that. I don't know what it is about it, but just that she lands as Zor and then she transforms, but she's still like crouched, like perched on the rock as the sorceress.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit like, okay.
But yeah, she then tells He-Man, he's got to bring the light back. Otherwise, this is just going to keep happening. So,
so He-Man heads off to take care of that. Back at the palace, Ram Man is definitely afraid down in these old tunnels, but
and this is after Ram Man and Teela had already fallen.
Yep.
Right. And then Teela falls again, even further than she fell the first time, which is now the fourth fall of the episode.
And this time she twists her ankle, so Ram Man has to help her. I like before that though, when they first wake up down the caves, Teela's like, Ram Man, are you all right? He's like, yeah, I fell on my head. I'm fine.
Yeah. And she's got like this little light on her staff that's like, it's like a night light. It does nothing. Like the Shadow Beast can still attack him with it.
Right. But it does enough for Ram Man.
Yeah.
But eventually they also lose that after she twists her ankle. He's got to help her out, and he's got to show that he's brave even when it's dark.
You get a really cool close up too of his face, and he like this moment where he's like, "Okay, my friend's in trouble. It doesn't matter that I'm scared. I gotta take care of business." And it gets this close up of his face, and then he just goes to town.
Yep. And so. Yeah, he overcomes his fear. He's able to get Teela, and they're running from the Shadow Beasts. We join He-Man back at Mount Barathrum, where he discovers the one weakness in Skeletor's plan is that he left no one at home to guard the gate. So, what I did like though, you got that animation of He-Man, running. He's on Battle Cat. They're riding up to the volcano. And at first I was critical because I'm like, they're running through water, which we've never seen water outside of Snake Mountain. But then after He-Man, unstops the volcano, then all the lava like flows back out. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually a really cool touch that there should be a waterway here. But because of all these geysers, like it's normally lava. Again, a nice touch to detail along with the dark that, they changed the landscape around Snake Mountain for when he's approaching.
Yeah. And I like, the next part of this is, he uses a sword and is basically slicing a hole in these kind of mini volcanoes to let some of the lava out, let the pressure out. It's just, how we go from one thing to another throughout this episode seems like it's really well done. It's like, okay, now I've got to, the sky's darkened. I've got to release this pressure. How can I do it? Okay, I'm gonna cut a hole in the side of these volcanoes, let the lava out, and then it'll stop shooting all this stuff up in the sky. It's just, I thought it was just really well done.
Absolutely. Yeah. That animation of him, he leaves Battle Cat at the base. He jumps up, he yells for Grayskull, and he does a backflip off the mountain, slamming his sword into his side and dragging it down. It's beautiful. And like you said, we see all the pressure relieved. We see the lava return to its normal pools around Snake Mountain. And as that ends, the smoke starts to dissipate, and we're back at the Royal Palace, just as Teela and Ram-Man are making it out, but they're still besieged by Shadowbeasts. Luckily, the air currents in Eternia are really fast, and the clouds dissipate very quickly, leading the Shadowbeast army to flee.
And the evil warriors. They also.
Well, I mean,
we're out of here.
Right.
So,
we're not dumb. We were. Right. Again, we get another thing of. I mean, they do a bit of fighting, but even at the same time, they were kind
of there. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, let's let the Shadowbeasts do their thing.
I mean, like I said, Whiplash did get Man-at-Arms in the face. Triclops did destroy the Basher. So there's some of that in there, but for the most part, they're letting the Shadowbeasts do their thing.
Yeah, and they know as soon as the Shadowbeasts flee, they're like, okay, wait, that was fun, guys. Leave it
was a good shot. Hey, you can't fault us for trying.
Right. Man at Arms congratulates Ram-Man because he was able to function even in the dark. He's a big boy now, so
yeah, they're like, after everything's clear, then it's like, Prince Adam's coming up to him talking about how brave he was and all this and that, and Ram-Man's kind of playing it off like it was no big deal, and he's just like laying around. We talked in the one episode where he went fishing while everybody is like strategizing at the palace. Well, here they are, they're like rebuilding the palace and stuff, and he's just laying back with his feet kicked up. When there's not fighting going on, Ram-Man is not very useful.
No, he's a 9-to-5 dude. Like, I am dedicated to you. When I'm on the job,
clocked out for the day, he is done.
Sorry.
Yeah, do you want to work some overtime? Not at all.
Nope. Cleanup is not my job, buddy. Later.
Yeah. We need somebody to come in on Saturday. Well, good luck with that.
Right.
I hope you find somebody.
We then finish back at Snake Mountain. Skeletor is ticked off about his defeat, but he takes solace in the fact that at least they destroyed the palace. Unless, of course, his evil warriors have something to tell him. They say nothing.
The way he says that, he knows that the palace was destroyed. Right. But he's saying it like, well, at least the palace was destroyed, kind of thing.
You guys did your thing at least.
Right.
It was my mom. I know you made your bed.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, I did. Evil warriors do not respond, and so Skeletor wishes them a good night, sealing them in the throne room in complete darkness as we see a bunch of Shadowbeast eyes light up.
Yep.
And we fade to the moral segment.
And the moral, which, we've criticized a few of these because they haven't related to the thing, and I don't think this one really does either. A Man-at-Arms says, everyone has fear, but sometimes fear can be a good thing, telling us when something isn't safe. So that to me says you have to listen to your fear, which is the opposite of what happened in the episode, which is that you had to overcome your fear. Right. So I get what they're saying, and yes, if fear can tell you that something's not safe, but that's not what happened in the episode. I think it would have been better for him to say, everybody gets afraid. Everybody,
right? Even
it's what
even Ram-Man and He-Man are scared sometimes. Like,
right? That would have been a better one, but
they gave it earlier when Ram-Man had the line about you got to do what you got to do no matter what you're afraid of.
Yeah, and like, even Man-at-Arms in that moment where I thought he was being nice, but you think he's being strategic, right, where he says, being brave is what you do in the face of fear.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, they had, that's what I'm saying. It's another one of these episodes where they had the easy moral setup and they decide like, no, that's too easy. Let's go a different direction.
It's almost like somebody that was doing the morals was different from the other people that were writing the episode. So
that is a good question, actually. I wonder if
Like maybe they just got kind of an outline, or like, oh, this one's going to be about,
That's what I mean.
Ram Man's afraid. Okay, I'm going to do one about fear.
Right. That's what,
like maybe they just got like a little idea of what it is, but didn't know the actual thing.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I'll be now. I got to find that out. That'd be something interesting to find out if it actually does make more sense for one person to just sit down and like do the morals, honestly, rather than like, here, you need to write this script and come up with a moral, especially in
and if they gave them morals. Like, let's say they gave them all the episodes of the first season and said, here's kind of the gist of what each episode is going to be about. Write a moral for each one of these segments, and they were just like boom, 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 boom. It would make sense to get what we're getting, because each one is kind of related to the episode, but not exactly related to the episode.
The other thing I wanted to point out, and we might need to track this from here on out, is unless I'm misremembering, Orko was not in the episode at all.
Yeah, he was.
But he was he?
Yep. They're right before the sky turns dark. Orko is Prince Adam's there. Orko is like messing with this planter that's like spinning around, and then it drops, and then the sky turns dark, and he goes, "Oh, like that never happened before." And Prince Adam's like, "I don't think that was you that kind of turned the sky dark."
But he wasn't. I guess even
he wasn't prominent.
He wasn't prominent. So you have an episode about Ram Man being afraid of the dark, but your moral segment is Man at Arms and Orko. You know what I mean? Like, so even there, it's kind of like that makes more sense if somebody else is doing the moral segments, where they're just like, we'll include Orko because he's supposed to be the children's gateway. He's their avatar anyways.
Right. And he's not the one that's scared in the moral. It's Man at Arms that's scared. Orko is the one making noises. Yeah. So it's just
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Going back to the unofficial guide by Yuka. Curious translations of the episode title is a neat little segment he's got in here. And I'm gonna butcher these pronunciations. I will tell you what they translate to. So in Germany, this episode was titled Lichu Geschindel.
All right.
And that translates to shade-loving ragtag.
Love it. I think that's the new name of the episode.
In Italy, it was Para del Buio, which is afraid of the dark.
Okay.
So
that's good.
And he also has in this guide, he's tracking it for us. He has, what does he call the segment? Sorry. Flipping back and forth here. How to use this guide. Where'd it go? How to use this guide. It's farther along than I thought it was. He's got some interviews up front here. Where'd it go? Did they twirl a weapon? He has that for every episode. This one does not have any weapon twirling. So.
It didn't have a weapon twirling, but it did have at one point He-Man kind of spins his sword, but like I don't know. It's interesting. But he also throws it at one point, which has it spinning as well, but it's not really twirling.
Right.
But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll default to Yuka for whether.
But I did think that was interesting that the way that he took down Skeletor's pterodactyl thing was he threw his sword at him. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And definitely, I always love those kind of moments because it always makes me think of Filmation, where he couldn't really swing the sword, but he could throw it at something.
Yeah.
So that's always fun.
Yeah.
I'll just say it real quick. Yeah. Oh, and in one interesting deleted scene, I won't go through them all. His book definitely has a ton of like deleted scenes in it. But in the script, they offered an alternative ending in case leaving the evil warriors in pitch black with the Shadow Beast was deemed too scary.
Interesting. Okay.
They just added the episode would end with the villains running away and we would see them escape the beasts. So
Gotcha.
Just in case they were worried about little Timmy at 6 years old going, but the beast ate Triclops. So yeah,
I will say the eyes lighting up at the end is kind of like, oh, that's kind of scary, but I I like it. I like the way it is.
Yeah, this episode, it was a quick episode, so much so that I even checked the runtime because it just felt a lot faster than
It was
episodes that we've
quick
seen.
paced. There was no
Mhm.
lulls in it. Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's this like almost a survivalist horror story, is what they were going for. Like
Mhm.
they the plot itself is actually pretty thin. I'm not a huge fan of the Ram Man Afraid of the Dark, but like I feel they handled it well and they didn't dwell on it too long.
Hmm.
So, but if they'd done any more with that, then I think it probably would have hurt the episode for me. But like most of it's just Skeletor's plan and Shadow Beasts acting crazy. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and get into our Power Sword rankings. So we've got, for those of you who are just starting with this episode, don't know why, but we got 3 Power Swords is the perfect episode, the best of the best. We got 2 Power Swords is an above average episode. We got 1 Power Sword is a good episode. We got the Cosmic Enforcer, that's right down the middle, neither good nor bad. On the other side, we've got the Havoc Staffs. 1 Havoc Staff is a bad episode. 2 Havoc Staffs is an even worse episode. 3 Havoc Staffs, that episode should be banished to Despondos, never to be seen by anybody again. Curtis?
FYI, before we get into the rankings, your picture has locked up. I've been able to hear you as you've gone through the ranking thing, but you're locked up on the screen. So.
Let me drop out and come back in. All right, we are back. They tried to send me to Despondos for talking about 3 Havoc Staffs, but I made it out. So, Curtis, what is your Power Sword ranking?
So, I normally the way that I've been watching these is I watch it and take my notes as I'm watching the episode, and then if I enjoy it, I watch it a second time.
Yep.
I was watching this last night in bed, and I didn't have like my notes thing. I didn't want to like be going back and forth in and out of the notes because normally I watch it on the TV, do the notes on my phone.
Yep.
But I was watching on my phone, so I didn't want to keep going back and forth. So this one I actually just watched the episode last night, just as it is, just take it in. And then this morning I watched it again and took notes. And I think that actually made me appreciate it more because the first watch through, I was able to just kind of enjoy the episode and see how it made me feel, and then watch it again and actually break it down. And I'll tell you, just the first watch through on it, I really just enjoyed it. I had a good time. I felt like it furthered the storyline. You got to learn a little bit more about Ram Man. It was really good plan by Skeletor. And then as I was going through and taking notes, I didn't find a whole lot of issues. There was, they didn't really explain how we went from 1 Shadow Beast to hundreds of Shadow Beasts. Like, where the hell were they? What was going on? So that was kind of interesting that was kind of left out. And then at one point, the Shadow Beasts are tearing a hole through the door of Grayskull. And then once the Shadow Beasts run away and Skeletor's like, I'll do it myself, they pan back to the door and the door is perfectly fine. There's no hole in it anymore. So 2 little just kind of weird things in there, but that really was very minor. I felt like overall the story, Skeletor's plan, did not have a whole lot of plot holes. I felt like they really thought this out well. How to do the plan, how to, have He-Man stop it, how he would, relieve the pressure. So all in all, I think this is a 3 for me. I think I think it furthered the storyline, and I don't really have anything that irritated me with this episode. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3 Power Swords.
Dang, it just shows that I can never anticipate what Curtis is going to come up with.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You didn't think I was going to like this one?
I didn't think you would go like 3 Power Swords. No, I thought you'd come up on the Power Sword side.
Yeah.
So for me, it's actually kind of the opposite. Rewatching it, the episode didn't do much for me. I love the action scenes. I love the premise of the Night of the Shadowbeasts. The Ram Man Afraid of the Dark storyline is pretty thin for me. Like I enjoyed it more talking to you about it than I did watching it. So,
Okay.
but it's maybe I just wasn't in the right headspace. I'm also coming up against this thing where like they keep doing these quote unquote feature episodes. So like Siren Song was kind of the first Ram Man episode. We had Deep End, which was supposed to be the Merman episode, but turned into the Giant Fish episode. We had Mechanek's Lament, which was supposed to be the Mechanek episode, but it really didn't finish on it. And it's just interesting that they keep doing these kind of spotlight episodes, but they don't end up really spotlighting. Like at the end of the day, Ram Man saved Tila, but He-Man saved the day. You know, where it's like, I guess I would have just liked a little bit more of a, like we said with Mechanek's Lament, I would have liked Mechanek to have, you know, embrace his reconnaissance. I would have liked Ram Man to just, and I'm not even sure what, but just a little something more impact at the end there. I mean, yes, saving Tila, okay. You know, earlier Curtis in this watch through would have actually been mad at Ram Man for saving Tila, but I don't know. I just felt like there should have been more of a punch at the end there, and I think that's what these spotlight episodes are failing for me, is that the spotlight character is not getting the finish, in my opinion.
I really disagree with you on that, just from the standpoint of they got Superman. They got He-Man out of this episode. Like by splitting it up and having the evil warriors here and having Skeletor go there, it allowed, in my opinion, Ram Man to shine in that setting and do the thing that he was supposed to do. Doesn't mean that he has to save the day at the end of the episode. Like, he doesn't have to be the one that stopped the sky from being smoldering and all this and that. But by He-Man not being, because if He-Man's there, He-Man's probably going to be the one that saves Tila. But by getting him out of there and having him go do his own mission, to me, that let Ram Man shine in the setting that he was in. So I kind of disagree with that, but you know.
Well, I was going to say, I think out of all of the spotlight episodes so far, this is the best one, is what I was going to finish with. So I'm guessing maybe even if after Ram Man had saved Tila, maybe they had come out of those tunnels to like everybody being captured and Ram Man was kind of able to save everybody. We're like, Ram Man could have been the catalyst for saving the palace side, whereas He-Man then, you know, he stopped the invasion. Like just a little bit bigger punch there at the end would have been nice. But in watching it, I think I was going to go a Cosmic Enforcer. But after talking to you about it, I'm going to give it a 1 power sword. This is a good episode. It is the best of the spotlight episodes so far. And it is a quick, enjoyable watch. So, yeah, definitely. You definitely turned me around on some of the stuff that was bringing me down. Now, if I can just get an explanation for Bad Breath Skeletor, that would be... That would be good.
I'm very interested by that assessment of this episode. To me, like the thing that I like about these spotlight ones, or what I'd hope to get out of it, is that the person that the episode is about is embracing their role, and their role doesn't have to be the ultimate savior. Their role it can just be, I play this part on the team. And Ram Man's part of the team is bashing stuff with his head and being there when people need him. Like, and so to me, that's what happened here versus, say, the Mechanek one, where, you know, Mechanek's part of the team really is the reconnaissance, but he didn't embrace that part. He embraced the teeth biting, you know, whatever part of it. You know, it's like, exactly. I don't know. I just felt like with this one, I don't know. I like, trust me, I like He-Man. He-Man's, I mean, we all loved He-Man as a kid, but He-Man doesn't always have to be the one doing everything. So when they can kind of get him out of the way and let the other characters shine, I like that a little bit.
No, I can completely agree. I completely see where you're coming from, and this is why I like doing it with you, because we can definitely
Flip
have
that
some
right there.
differences of
he likes doing it with me.
PGG doesn't watch this. It's fine.
Okay.
Last thing I want to leave us on is now that they're 13 episodes out, Curtis, we're halfway through season 1.
Mm-hmm.
This is the halfway point. All right. We're a third of the way through the series already. Mm-hmm. But Toonami did a special thing here where they ran a He-Manathon, which was the first 13 episodes all in a row, all at once. And I actually found that old promo for it. So we're going to go ahead and watch that right now because we can.
It's not possible. This Saturday, Toonami's giving you some extra manpower.
Put some muscle into it.
Tear into a He-Manathon.
You shall be transformed into a great warrior.
A baker's dozen of He-Man. 15 classic episodes. This Saturday from 4:30 to 11 p.m. Let's get physical.
Good form.
Only Toonami.
Interesting.
Yep. So, and that was actually November 30th. So, if I remember correctly, that was the day after this episode. Yep. This episode aired on November 29th, that Friday, as it always did. And then Saturday, they ran everything together from the beginning, part 1 to Night of the Shadowbeasts, all at once. So, fun little time.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
All right, guys. I think that is it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode. I can't remember what it is right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was either.
Looks like Underworld.
Nope.
Do us a favor, click down below, share this with the Purple Gang so they can get some interesting clips out of this. And until next time.
Let us know what you like, what you didn't like.
Yes, thank you.
Questions, all that kind of good stuff.
So yes, I actually take that back. The next episode you guys hear will not be Underworld. It will be our recap of the first 13 / fan feedback. So if you want to be a part of that episode, comment on YouTube. We've already got quite a few there we want to dig into. Send us an email at logpod85@gmail.com, or feel free to private message me or Curtis or both at the same time over on the Facebooks. So let us know your questions, your comments, your concerns, and we'll definitely be sure to address those. So yeah, until next time then, go give us some feedback.
Oh, come on.